Recovery is bullshit. Yeah, I said it. I'm Carl. I'm an addict. Man, I'm sick. Isn't it just, it's just terrible. I've been sick for like 2 months. I'm an addict, alcoholic. My sobriety is August 22nd, 2014. This is SoberPod.
Soberpod.com. Yeah, SoberPod, keep it authentic, no facades. If it's real, then you know it's ours. Welcome.
SoberPod is a podcast dedicated to the idea that one addict or alcoholic helping another is crucial to building a life in recovery. We are not professionals. I'm definitely not a professional. And the opinions expressed in this episode are all derived from the book that I wrote, 366 Effing Days Sober. And as always, stay active, stay sober. So, as you might have heard from the intro, this episode, we're going to be talking about recovery and why recovery is bullshit. That's right. I said it. We're really going to be poking at some deep frustrations and cynicisms that people often feel about the process of recovery, especially when it gets hard. Now, before you jump out of your chair and start writing a nasty email because I said recovery is bullshit, give me a chance to explain myself, because I'm sure some of you are like, what are you talking about? Recovery is the best thing in my life, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. Okay. So great. Good for you. But there are some of us who really, who go through the process and who just get cynical and bitter as fuck. And that seems to be my path at some point. We're talking about why so many of us, including myself, can feel like recovery is bullshit, quote unquote, at some point in their journey. Let's get real about what it means to, and break down some of the frustrations, the myths, and the moments when you're ready to throw in the towel on this whole recovery thing. Let's start with some hard truths. When we're knee-deep in sobriety, there are times it feels like we're just spinning our wheels. You hear it all the time. Life's better sober. I quit drinking and my life got better. Everything will be fine if you stay on the path or stay on the beam, etc. But here's what they don't tell you up front. Life sober can still be brutally hard. Emotions come back full force, and they can feel like a tsunami has been unleashed on your life. Problems you never imagined you had start creeping up. Your codependency seeps in, and before you know it, you have a whole host of new problems and issues to deal with that you are not prepared to deal with, especially the problem of staying sober. Maybe your life was on edge when you quit, and now the bills are due. Creditors are, keep calling. Relationships are still messy. And now with all of this, you have this realization that sobriety isn't everything that they, your counselors or people in the rooms or your sponsors promised it would be. Now you have all the problems without the one and only tool that we used for so long, your drugs and alcohol. Take away drugs and alcohol, and that's the only thing that we used to deal with it all in the past. This is where most people make the claim, internally or externally, that recovery is bullshit. I did the same thing at 1 year sober. I thought I had accomplished all that there was to accomplish in my recovery. At 1 year, my relationship had not improved dramatically, but I was no longer shitting blood and shitting my pants, so that was a good thing. I even talked to my wife when we were camping at around 1 year sober about not doing those meetings anymore. And she said, "Are you sure you want to not do that anymore?" So I think she knew, as much as she didn't like it, that she knew that I needed to continue to go. So my pink cloud had burst, and it all seemed like so much work. Doing recovery just seemed like a lot of work, and it was something I was not used to doing in my life. I wasn't used to working so hard about what Carl had to do on a daily basis, and I was. Let's just face it, I was pretty lazy about that stuff. When you go from just drinking every day to having to actually do shit, it makes things look hard. So it's enough to make me stop and think, what's the point? I'm doing the work, quote unquote, or what I think is the work, but I am not seeing the rewards fast enough. I don't know about you, but that was kind of always on my mind in early sobriety. I had an expectation of recovery, and in my mind, and with all the hype around recovery that you hear in the rooms, I expected to have jobs, falling into my lap, my wife singing my praises, and my kids crying about finally getting their daddy back. And That's where the bullshit feelings come in. You feel like the promises aren't matching up to the payoff. And let's be honest, sometimes recovery is slow as hell. For all the talk of miracles, sudden upheavals or whatever, most of it is persistence and consistency and dealing with your own mind. And there is no magic wand for that. In the rooms and in general, recovery is often sold like a magic pill. You hear it all the time. Go to meetings, work the steps, get a sponsor, and voila, life is all fixed. So magical. But it doesn't work that way. Sobriety isn't a quick fix for anything. Definitely not for anything. So it's a lifestyle overhaul. So yeah, if you came into this thing thinking it'd be a fast road to happiness, you're probably calling bullshit at some point too. Here's the deal. The addiction and alcoholism didn't happen overnight, speaking for myself, and neither does your recovery. In fact, sometimes it feels like it's not happening at all. People who stick with it and find out that real change is slower than we'd like. I wanted to hurry up and get well already. At 6 months, I remember having a conversation about how long things should take. Like I should start feeling this way, and when should I feel better, and I should feel this way at 6 months. I should be getting, my whatever relationships adjusted. Like when do I feel better? Is it like 9 months, a year? Is it when they give me the chip? Does it magically change? My first sponsor basically said, like, dude, like whatever's going on in your mind about what you expect out of this thing, it's not going to happen because everybody is different. Everybody has a different, process. Everybody in recovery is unique. So how many of these meetings did I need to attend was a good question. After 3 or 4 months, you begin to hear the same stories, the same shares, and it all seems so boring and tired. There's a moment when you lift your head and say to yourself, is this it? Is this what, quote unquote, recovery has to offer? Well, not really. You see, if you pay attention and listen, you might hear an occasional old timer say stuff like time takes time. And it's those little sayings that get lost in the noise of the dramatic drunkalog stories that we initially focus on in our early recovery in the rooms. Those sayings can hold a lot of wisdom and insight, but the trick is you got to stay long enough to where you start to hear those things. And it's almost near impossible early in recovery. So let's talk about the daily grind of being sober for just a minute. I go to meetings, I call my sponsor, I meditate, I read spiritual stuff. Over time, it can feel like a trap. Same old stuff every day. It's easy to lose sight of why we're doing this and think it's just a cultish routine. Especially when we, hear a girl or guy with a few years say some, great shit about how peaceful and spiritual they are. And an hour later, after the meeting, they are in a brawl in the parking lot with some newcomer. It's hard to see past it sometimes. But here's the thing. One of my catchphrases. There's freedom within the discipline of going to meetings, calling your sponsor, reading materials, and meditating. Just because the routine feels monotonous doesn't mean it's not working. Sometimes we need structure to heal the chaos that addiction created. Routine isn't glamorous, but it does keep you moving forward. There's a quote by Zeno, and some dead old white dude, that says, well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing. These are the exact types of small quips that remind us of how we are healing, which is one day at a time. So let's tackle the big one. I talked about it on the last episode, and we talk about blame and denial and this kind of stuff. So let's talk about that again. So if you want more about denial, go to the last episode, and then you'll get more about denial. But there's a stage in recovery where it's easy to blame everyone and everything. Our past, society, circumstances, and as you heard in the last episode, of course, I love to blame my wife, talk about bullshit. It was always someone else's fault. But honestly, that's just a cop-out. Is it bullshit that some people have it easier? Sure. Is it fair? No. but pointing fingers won't get or keep us sober. At the end of the day, the responsibility to stay sober lies squarely on your shoulders, or mine for my own. So it's something we also covered in the last episode. So go back and, if you can't, go back if you can't understand that yet. So recovery forces us to look in the mirror and own every choice we make. Remember, what you're not changing, you are choosing. And it can be uncomfortable, but it's also empowering. So stop giving your power away by blaming others. Okay, after all this obvious bullshit, let's talk about why we're still here. If recovery were complete bullshit, none of us would stick around. The truth is, despite the setbacks, frustrations, and daily grind, sobriety gives us something that nothing else does. Gives me clarity. Freedom. Freedom from alcohol, freedom from smoking. I actually use the steps to stop smoking. A life where we don't have to hide from ourselves. It's not as grandiose as some people make it out to be in the rooms. Sometimes it's just the little things. Noticing that, the color of the sky, being aware of nature, sunsets, birds, the laughter of a child, especially your own child. To have a few moments of peace of mind that I never had before. If even just a few, especially recently. But for most of us, that's worth the price of admission. Recovery teaches you how to live honestly, to face yourself without the mask of addiction. And yeah, it's slow and painful. Can I repeat that again? It's slow and painful. But the alternative is going back to the life that I had. I know how that ends up. I've been there. I have heard that song before, and it's not a song I want to put on repeat. For all you people who have a Spotify playlist. So is recovery really bullshit? It can feel that way on a bad day, but at the end of the day, it's the only way we get to live on different terms. Recovery doesn't promise perfection, it promises progress. That's why you hear the sayings of, progress, not perfection. And it's why people say those things. It's like just as a good reminder, little things so that we can keep our head up. It's messy and it's imperfect, but it's real. The truth is, if you stick with it, you find that what you thought was bullshit was actually just hard work dressed in some good old disappointment. It's like, after you go through it, you realize there's a reason you went through it. And when you push through, you find out that hard work is the very thing that sets you free. But let's not kid ourselves. Just talking about it in the rooms and sharing how great things are, quote unquote, without the action and the results to back it up is bullshit. Okay. Sorry this episode is so short, but I'm just really not feeling it today. And I am so sick. I got the flu or something. It's really bad. So I want to share something from 366 effing days sober. This is the reading from November 6th, and it's coming up this week. And I think it's one of the most grounding reminders in the book about recovery being bullshit. See, sobriety. So here it is. November 6th. Sobriety does not give you immunity from life. Getting sober only allows you to deal with things better, hopefully. It doesn't stop those lifey, quote-unquote, things from happening. You will get sick, which I am sick today. People will still die. Assholes will be assholes, and haters gonna hate. Can you feel me? So the best you can expect is to be sober while you manage to deal with the issues at hand. You may not even deal with those things better. You may still fuck some shit up, but at least you didn't fuck it up any more than you already have. Being sober allows you to see where you went wrong and have the ability to repair the damage, if any, and possibly stop it from happening again next time. So stop crying in your styrofoam coffee cup in meetings, get back out there and do some shit. Now, if that doesn't hit home, I don't know what does. So, hopefully it motivated you. Sobriety doesn't, free you from life's troubles, of course. It is kind of bullshit sometimes, but it doesn't mean you're suddenly, invincible or that you won't still mess up. It just means that now you're dealing with reality, or like what we say, life on life's terms. Again, more sayings. You're able to see things clearly, face your mistakes, and actually do something about them. That's a superpower that most people don't realize that they have until they get sober. So let's talk about the reflection from that reading. From that entry, it said, what have you not been successful at in your sobriety? What might you need in order to overcome that obstacle? It's a question that hits right in the heart of the struggle with recovery. Instead of seeing every failure as a setback, it challenges you to see obstacles as opportunities to grow. There's a lot of acceptance in there. Recovery doesn't mean perfection. It means building resilience, learning to handle whatever life throws at you one day at a time without numbing or running like most of us do. So then there's the challenge for the day. I'm going to walk you through it. I want you to take some time. So you'll close your eyes and imagine, you're sitting there, you're breathing. So take the time to breathe. And if you're driving, don't close your eyes. So imagine pulling back from your body and you're now above your body until you're actually looking at yourself. So you're outside of yourself. And then as you pull back, you see the city that you're in, you see the state, you see the country. As you pull further back, you start to see the continents and you see the earth. Then, as you pull even further back, you're seeing the solar system. This exercise is about perspective. When you're wrapped up in your own mind, your problems can seem insurmountable. But when you pull back, you see things for what they are, pieces of a bigger picture. You see what the disease of addiction and alcoholism would have you believe, that you're alone in your struggle, that your problems define you, but the reality is they're just one part of the big journey. So what do you do about all that? Well, you grab a copy of 366 Epic Days Sober. And then each day you can get a little bit of the real talk and, that kind of challenge and that kind of perspective. And of course, it's all there to, so you don't take yourself too damn fucking seriously. So that's it for today. Remember, life in recovery isn't perfect, but it is real. So keep going. Keep challenging your understanding of recovery and the words of others in it, especially the words of others in it. And remember, you're doing the hard work that most people only dream of, even if it feels like bullshit some days. So what do we say? What do I say? I say stay active, stay sober. See ya. God, I'm so sick.
Soberpod.com. Yeah. It was a sight to see them. Breakfast with Sprite and Seagrams. Wrestling with my vices, exercising my demons. My blessings were blocked, so I never got the message. I'm stressing, I'm only 12 steps from an exit. Regret it, because my imperfections were perfected. I ain't run from it, I accept it and rep it. It's a badge to me, good stories come from a tragedy. And when you survive, the glory will come in Act 3. The wait's over, 366 days sober. Morning affirmations that can start the day for you. Use my favorite bookmark for a placeholder. Finish when the day's over. Okay. Yeah, sober pod, keep it authentic, no facades. If it's real, then you know it's ours. Welcome.